Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Red Bra Project. We are here with episode number 45 with the beautiful Tandy Gutierrez. We're trying to work on that. Thank you. So we want to welcome you to the show. And before we dive in, we want to give a quick shout out to Audrey Simpson. So she was a previous Red Bra Project guest from episode 21, which is fabulous. You guys want to go back and take a look at that. She is just a powerhouse herself, but she made this beautiful connection, and Tandy and us have been getting to know each other, and she was just a great fit for the Red Bra Project. So we're so excited to welcome you to the show. So Tandy, I'm going to kind of pass it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story and kind of what we're going to chat about today.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and all the thanks to Audrey. She has been this little angel of a friend in all kinds of ways. So she's a wonderful connector, and anyone that she introduced me to, I go, yeah, I know these are the right people. So very grateful. My name's Tandy Gutierrez, and I'm really, introducing myself these days seems to be kind of like a thing, but my history, my career has been in wellness and in fitness. And in the last, 3 years, really moving into more of a spiritual territory, but always with the laser focus on wellness and women. So I teach Pilates, I teach yoga, I'm a tarot reader and a psychic, but it's always within the realms of healing, and most importantly, empowering women to heal themselves and advocate for themselves in both practical, like super practical ways, and in the magical ways.
So I think this is so cool because it sounds like you take the best of both worlds and you found a way to blend them, but then to also teach that and empower specifically women to kind of get to a better place. And when you say healing, what specifically, what category is that?
Yeah, well, it really began very completely practically for myself. So I have celiac. That took the majority of my, I'd say, adult years to get diagnosed. It's typical and common that it's a minimum of 9 years before it gets diagnosed. And so it really started with my own path and pattern of being fit and being healthy and eating healthy. And I say that in quotations because it's like the dead ringer for, oh, there's still work to do. And being in the fitness industry and being female. And so I also had IBS. I say had because I know how to manage it. I know where it comes from now. And I also had a thyroidectomy almost 8 years ago now. So I was on a path of advocating for myself and trying to figure out chronic digestive disorders, chronic cystic acne, chronic fatigue, and bloating, and just like all of these unseen silent layers of my body. And I was going to doctors and Western medicine, and I was going to all practitioners and all the woo-woo you could heap in there, and looking for answers and strategic answers. And I really find that I'm a very, very balanced blend of practical and magical. I believe in the unseen. I believe in the power of our energy and the power of thought, but we in a real 3D body, like what you eat matters and how you move matters. And I wasn't finding a linear process, and people and practitioners and doctors were trying to help, but there weren't answers that were honestly making me feel any better or moving the dial forward. And so it was a long journey to it. Meanwhile, I had clients that I was coaching the whole time on a strength and conditioning floor, in the Pilates studio, in group fitness. And so I had all of this knowledge, but it took time and experience to hone in on tactics that genuinely made an upswing for me. And once I saw what that was on the mat, in the kitchen, in meditation, and in the tarot, I just wanted to share it with clients and people because there's so many resources, but people still really feel at the mercy of their bodies and aren't feeling any better.
Yeah, I completely follow this story, and I can relate in so many ways. Just in fact, when something's wrong with our body, we do turn to find an answer, but it can't be very linear. Like you said, we don't always think about the all-encompassing ways to treat that. And I have an autoimmune disease as well. And so I can relate to what that looks like, feels like on the inside, but may not look on the outside. And, you know, you are really struggling to feel your best and you try all these different things, but yet there's still just one piece and it can be so frustrating finding an answer. And especially talking to doctors. And, you know, of course, you know, in our society, until you get away from that and you see how not just applying medicine or taking a pill can work, you don't understand the power of all of this together. And so talking to you, it makes me so excited that you're out here spreading this message and helping people who have been struggling looking for an answer for so long.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I started teaching not in the spectrum of like wellness per se. Like I had a dance background and a theater background. Pilates totally saved my life with a hip repair in my 20s, you know, and so I started teaching simply because nobody else knew the work at that time. Like I'm 41, you know, like it was not the cool hip thing. It wasn't the day-to-day discussion point of fitness or part of it. And so it really spun and spiraled in a, you know, you look back on the journey of a lifetime, you go, oh, it took time to get where I'm at. Like I believe in the power of movement. I know that it heals. And I believe in the power of Western and Eastern medicine. But there are sometimes combinations in a body that you just go, the combo's not right here, you know, and working with people that they really feel at the mercy of their bodies, like it's broken and it's something to beat up and beat into submission. And the minute I started anchoring into more rest and more, you know, kind movements for myself was when the upswings really started happening.
That is just so incredible to listen. And I mean, to have the patience also, you know, it's been a long journey and it took a long time for you to figure out how to put all of this together and make it work and now be able to take it to other people. And I love being able to look back at the dots and connect them and you kind of have that amazing aha moment. And you're right, you know, years ago, you know, when you were focusing on Pilates and things, that wasn't the hot thing. That was the, oh, okay, cool. Now it's like everyone's like, get me to the Pilates bar.
Totally. And it was funny too, because even teaching out of a studio with the equipment, which people still don't know that there's a studio with equipment because because it's so common online, because it's so common, you know, that, in gyms and studios that they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh no, like, you know, having to explain that it's not yoga. Meanwhile, I'm an avid yogi and I teach yoga and my work is integrative. But I was always the Pilates girl in the gym that they would see lift. Like I was a strength and conditioning coach also. And then they'd be like, wait a minute, how come you're like this big and female and can do all of these things? And I'm like, it's because of the Pilates.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was always kind of like, you know, in the dark of like just listening and valuing listening to the conversation of a body. And I think where I'm at and my clients and my members at unicornwellnessstudio.com are at, it's always interesting sometimes to get outside of our box of our community too, because people are still like, what? How does this work? You know, because my whole thing has been, I can get you more results in a physical body and in the wellness capacity of not feeling well by doing less, like 30 minutes, gentle movement, really constructive over time. And people are still like blown away that actually works.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's kind of a mindset too. And it's like, kind of like, what do you mean only 30 minutes? And you are incredibly toned and strong. And most people would think, well, there's no way that you can get like that in 30 minutes a day.
Oh yeah.
Pilates. You've got to be at the gym like 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know?
And I used to have people who would like, well, you're not getting a body like that by doing, I was like, this is literally what I do. Like you will see me and you'll see posts of like, I go to the gym sometimes now because we have a tiny apartment in New York and I do my mat work. And then when I feel called to do some strengthening, I do in a really mindful and a really minimal manner because my body doesn't respond to it the way it used to. It's just, it fires things as an autoimmune system that's not okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the point. The point is to do the things that you love, that you're called to do, that sound fun as a human experience. Like, that's one of the things is I'm not trying to, you know, sell people on only doing this and not doing anything else, but do this so you can keep doing the fun stuff or the things you just want to explore longer. Because a lot of the formats that we're being sold and marketed to blow out your system. It's a very patriarchal, masculine, toxic. It's not that they're not useful or good, but the way it's being applied is not helpful or healthy, which creates, in particular in women, this idea of brokenness, of dysfunctional, of I can't do it and I'm unworthy and I'm not I mean, I think as an autoimmune body, we've probably all heard we're too stressed, too emotional, or we're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. Or you didn't know how to deal with those emotions. And so they're just, just gathering somewhere and they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
One of the things that I really love, well, there's so much here, and I feel like we need almost like a part 1 and a part 2, but something that's really important, and I think that's part of your story and how you discovered this and how you got to where you are right now, is that you learn to lean in and work with your body rather than against it. And that's huge.
Yeah. Well, I started teaching Pilates by accident. I mean, it really was. I was 20 at the time that I started teaching. I mean, like, I was the only person who knew the work. And so it was like, go teach this class because you're here. And I was like, okay. I had no intention of teaching it. I had no intention of making movement and healing my career and my life. But what was so powerful was seeing these small, like, micro movements and the empowerment in people, and then light up in, oh, my wrist doesn't hurt anymore when I do this, or my back pain's gone. I mean, real, like, catharsis and transition and healing. And healing means to make something better. And I used to really stay away from that word too. It's like, what do you mean I'm a healer? A healer makes something better. It doesn't mean they solve it, and they don't necessarily, like, magically make it go away. But healers give tools to make it better. And there are tools.
And you're making people aware of these tools, not just, a tool. If somebody was coming because they are so frustrated with feeling crappy and feeling run down and feeling tired, that's one reason. And then there's the spiritual side as well. But I'm sure you get all kinds of people coming to you looking for different types of healing. And so kind of working through that, you're able to work with all kinds of people looking for that type of healing.
Yeah. So the thing that's been the most, as a small business owner and creator, challenging about what I teach online is that it is one house, many windows. There's 1,000 reasons for people to come to work with me. There are, 1,004 reasons and ways in which they can engage with the work. And trying to nutshell it down, it's like, you don't have to have an autoimmune issue. You don't have to have a physical injury. You don't have to hurt to do it, but it literally makes life better. It unravels things in this really sweet and unassuming way that has been pretty fascinating, because we're a really inclusive community of ages and bodies. I always put on all of our promotional stuff that it's all levels of fitness. It fits all levels, and people don't believe that either. Or like, it's beginner, intermediate, advanced. And these categories as a culture have really hurt our capacity to make things better and to make progress. And so, bodies are a mixed bag of beginner, intermediate, advanced. Like, and the minute you label your body advanced, you're like sunken ship. Because then we think we don't have to do the small stuff anymore, or we check out when we're doing a movement pattern. So much like, and we hear it in yoga, but I think so many wellness terms have just gotten watered down by being repeated so often. And this idea of being present in the work, in yoga, but people aren't cueing to be present, and they're not guiding to be present. And so when I teach a mat workout, it's only 30 minutes, and the cueing is typically what people attach to. They're like, I don't even watch the video, I just listen, because it allows them to get genuinely into the body, let their body do whatever version it's going to do today, and just move on. It's not about doing what I do and looking like what I look like. We're, as a human, we take in like 90+% visually, so it's like people want to watch, and sometimes you need to see, what does that kind of look like? What's the shape it's making?
Mhm.
But to get into your body and connected to it, you need to listen and make that physical connection between the auditory and the functional.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that, so if somebody were to come to you, and I know everybody and everybody is different, and kind of you make that connection at your own pace. So if somebody new were to come to you on average, and they were doing all of the work, both on the mat and spiritually and everything, what is kind of, and I know you talk about, you guide women to understand, you know, these practices are going to lead to long-term solutions, which isn't always easy because, you know, especially in our day and time, you want immediate relief almost when you start something. So what is kind of the guideline or the time frame for somebody to start feeling better on the inside?
That's like the greatest question, because working with me in particular is a little bit of a leap of faith. And I always ask for somebody's trust and go, can you trust me
Yeah.
for 3 months? And 3 months sounds long, but it's enough time if they've had zero experience with Pilates or yoga to get familiar with the cueing, most of the variations. And that by that time, it starts to have a little bit of flow and gel that you go, oh, you know, but my clients are really like our members, they either diehard lifers or they're done in 30 days, because it's that long term is a thing. It's not instant gratification. So it's not to say you won't feel better after being on the mat for 30 minutes. You will. Most people look at it as a moving meditation where they just feel calmer, they feel more grounded, you know, and they go, oh, that made me feel better. But as far as really integrating it and understanding it in your body and going, no, this is my fitness format too, it's a 3-month commitment for sure.
Okay. And that's the same for newbies and for people that are accustomed to Pilates.
I absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's really good to know. And it's nice to know that it can be on that spectrum too, because like you said, a lot of people may look on the outside and peer in to your work and what you're doing and the website and, you know, the studio and things and say, oh, I don't think I'm at that level yet. This kind of intimidates me.
That's really the number one thing. And, you know, our community, we have a private Facebook community, and it's been, most of our members have really been a hand-to-hand. A friend introduced them, the people who are already there. We do a lot of live events. I've traveled and I've had ambassadors all over the United States to do events. And so people would get to know me and have an experience with it, or one of their besties is like diehard about it. And then they would come into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. So Tandy, tell me a little bit about the merge from just everything you used to do in person and your studios and everything like that to kind of go online. Like what inspired that? How did you get here?
Another really good question. Well, I have 2 sons, so I had babies, and I'm a high introvert. People don't really believe that. And so I was in, you know, a gym-based studio, high-end facilities, regional manager, you know, templating curriculum for them for like 12 years. And when I got pregnant with my second son, and we had moved quite a bit too, so my husband was in the tech industry. And so clients were really diehards. They always were. And they were like, please don't go. What are we going to do? And I was like, I love you. We'll figure this out. So I started training my private clients on Skype. That was the first transition piece. And I didn't know if it would work or not. You know, this was like, again, kind of back in the day when like
who heard of Skype at that time? And it was like, wait, you can video me? I mean, people are going to see me? Like, it was weird. And to fast forward and see where we are now.
Right. And so this is I love you asking these questions too, because this is such a part of our story and my journey that people weren't doing that. You know, my husband was in the tech industry, so we were a little more techie in the household of like how to solve stuff. And so we had moved from LA to Austin at that point. And I was a stay-at-home mom and was really happy about that, but still had gifts to give and supplemental income that was nice. And I'm a teacher at heart. And so it started with Skype clients that just did not, like, refuse to let me go. And I was like, okay, if you're going to pay me to do this, like this way,
Yeah.
And then by the time my second son was born, I just knew the commitment of going back to a corporate environment and the hours and how much time is spent away from them. And I really, my Taurus sun and my Leo rising, I want my cake and to eat it too. And I wanted to be able to pick them up and make their snacks. Like that was my thing. And so it was really originally my husband's idea to build the platform. And so this is the other piece people don't understand. We are one of the very first, literally online, to have an online subscription-based fitness studio platform. And it's like this little secret, and we wouldn't have been able to do it. As a family, we invested $5,000 and thought, if we lose it, okay, like we're just going to try this. And it was because he had a friend who could, we could do it in these ways that we're like, well, we should try. Yeah. And it transitioned into a subscription base, and it has grown and evolved. It was originally just movement. Then I wrote my food reset that was unbelievably healing for me. Mm-hmm. And I had no intention of sharing it with anybody, but clients saw the change in me and they were like, what are you doing? And so I was like, okay, here. Yeah. And it had such powerful transformations for them that we added the food component. Mm-hmm. It's in the Unicorn Wellness Handbook now, just as like a standalone. Okay. And then it got to a place where it was our primary income earner. It was really stable. We've not had some crazy viral thing. It's not. It's been handshakes and like a brick and mortar studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we got to a place where, for me personally, the things that I was working with clients privately, I would still keep some private clients online only, was the spiritual aspect of it. And it was like, I would see people who were, changing their food, changing their movement, but couldn't get habits to stick. As much as they tried, there was that emotional, like energetic, intellectual block to things. And I thought, okay, well, I'd been doing it with clients for forever with the tarot and allowing this tool for personal evaluation to come through. And finally, I just got to a point where I was like, I have to add this. This is really who I am. This is what I teach. This is how I empower people. And these are part of my gifts. Mm-hmm. And so we rebirthed the site and rebranded very incrementally, like mm-hmm. over time. For the last 3 years, but really seriously a year ago. And even this past August, we built the new site. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so cool. I love the story. I love how intimate it is behind the scenes and kind of how personal it is. And then just how you grew. You grew at the speed that you were comfortable growing with and able to provide your clients with everything that they need. And looking at your site and going through the site, it is all encompassing. It's not overwhelming. It's when you log in and you look and you're like, okay, here's my workouts, here's my meditation, here's my tarot readings. And it's just so neat to have that all at your fingertips and literally to log in right here from your phone and, just globally. Just being a traveler myself, I know how important it is to take care of health and wellness, especially on the road. And this is that next level where you can do it anywhere. Yeah.
Well, and our family moved a lot. Like we moved a lot as a family. 2 years ago, we packed up and never intended to come back. Like we were aiming to live a laptop lifestyle, and we went to Europe and we, spent a ton of time there. And so I know what it feels like to travel, like a lot, even as a presenter and when I worked for corporate, that getting to a gym, I to this day as a mother of 2, and I have a stepson also, am like, I don't know if I can curse, does anybody get there? It's a 3-hour process by the time you've packed up. Yeah. If you're going to shower there and come home. And I'm like, number one, an hour and a half, you don't need that much time, or an hour. You really don't. It's like brushing your teeth. You need to be consistent for the most part for the residual buildup to happen. And as a personal trainer, I just thought people are wasting time. Like, I can show you how to be efficient. You can have a 4-week training cycle. I will handle it. You don't need to do all that. And so it's a beautiful travel piece. And I really, you ask entrepreneurs, like, what did you solve or why did you do it? I really genuinely have built what I wanted in the world. I don't want to go 3 different places. I don't want to read an article about how meditation can be empowering. Then I have to figure out how to fit that in my day and who my teacher is going to be.
Yep.
Like if I know I resonate with someone, I want to stick with them or their recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as you say, like picking up the phone, we take it very much for granted that everything's accessible there. But it's very inefficient. You're going to multiple platforms. You got 300 different apps, and you spend your time poking rather than being in practice with your body.
Yep.
So it's really important to me that you had a 30-minute workout, a 15-minute guided meditation, that for 45 minutes, you could tend to your vessel and yourself and still have time to shower and get somewhere.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, you have this on your website, press play and reap the wellness. And it's so true. It's like, you know, especially when you're traveling or you're vacation, or you're just trying to take care of yourself in your busy lifestyle. By the time you do figure out where you're going, if you are traveling, get in, see if they have a week-long membership, whatever, or if you go online and you're looking for classes. And, you know, it's just so nice to be able to take care of yourself in a quick and efficient way and have kind of like a one-stop shop. So
yeah.
You could tune in and do your yoga, your mat work in the morning, and tune in the evening for, you know, the evening meditation. So
totally. And people, again, too, we're so inundated with online offers that for us as business owners, and it's my husband and I, we're partners. My very first personal trainer is one of my best friends, handles our accounts. He's our accounts manager. And so it's really, you know, like we really invest our hearts in it. And it has been a labor of love at times.
Yeah.
But you take for granted that everybody's got an online offering and you can subscribe to things. But this is where, you know, the internet's gotten so noisy and we all get pissed off about it, is that everybody's a, you know, expert. And I go, no, actually they're not. Everyone can have a platform. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone will have their audience, but not everyone has mastery. Like there is something to be said for time put in and for commitment to it. And I think that's the other piece of sometimes when they look at the subscription rate, it's $32 a month, which we've gone rounds about this because people are like, I can join a gym for like $24.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can, but you don't have a coach. You don't have a 4-week training cycle that's macro and micro cycled to you. And you can't take it anywhere you want to. You know, like this really, people will pull it up in their office. If they've got a little runway, you can do it there. Mm-hmm. You know, teachers who it's like when it's their planning period and their classroom's empty, like it really is there. And you also, you know, people think, oh, it's just video and it's stock. And people are really like, it actually feels live. Like it feels warm,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you hit on something, not everybody can be an expert, but we all do have a platform and a voice and we can use it, and that's amazing. But I mean, you have such a strong foundation giving, you know, 20 years ago, you were teaching Pilates, but then you have dance, martial arts, yoga, you know, the spiritual side. I mean, you have this amazing foundation that's just solid. And I think that's just incredible what you have done and created as a gift to offer people for anybody to reach, which is really cool. And like you said, it's a little secret, but it is such, it has so much impact.
Thank you. It took me a long time to figure out like, oh, where do I fit? Because I had a really diverse background, you know, but now it's just like, well, if it's going to be a fit for you, if it sounds like fun, then this is your home, you know, and if it's not, it's not. But I can speak to the practical functional science of training a body and healing injuries. Mm-hmm. But I also understand that healing a body and in particular, women to get comfortable in this physical vessel, it takes more than just the workout and the movement variations, you know.
You hear so much about the mind, and you have to connect the mind and the body and what you eat. But yeah, again, here you have this all-encompassing option, which is beautiful. If people want to work with you one-on-one, do you offer that?
I offer, what I focus on now is magical mentoring, which is about every 4 months. So it's based on a tarot reading for the beginning of the cycle. We come up with a to-do list for their wellness goals or for their functional lifestyle goals. Everyone is required to really be on the mat with me in movement, but I do refine these things for clients. So I don't have one-on-one training coaching clients anymore. But I do have a deep dive to thrive sessions. So if in particular, if there are people with autoimmune issues that are very unique and really I need all the details to really help. It's like a one-time investment, thing. It's 2 hours with me and then an hour and a half on the back end that I then send a full mapping for the 6 to 12 months. Everyone will really, all roads lead to membership, because that daily practice or that weekly practice is powerful.
Yeah.
But I have healing protocols for specifically neck and upper back injuries, for shoulder injuries, hips, and hamstrings, basically. And then I can drop custom folders in their account and prescribe them the homework that they can go do and then check in with me. So
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because it's not one-on-one, but you will get one-on-one results if you follow the to-do list. And I really am always available. Yeah.
Customized for that person and their concerns.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
I mean, the nerdy teacher in me loves it, because the healing protocols, like, they work, and as unique as we all are, we're also very similar, and bodies are built in a certain way. So it's like, you just need this and this for like 4 to 8 weeks, or maybe 12, depending. Yeah. And if, so this is, people will be like, well, I need more accountability. I need somebody's eyeball on me. And the life coach in me goes, no, you don't. You need to get really serious about whether you want a result or not. Because when you pay somebody as a one-on-one, there is an assumption that because they're standing there, that's what gets results. That just hands off the power. Like, that just disempowers you right off the bat.
Yeah, because it has to come from right here, yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you need tools, and you need support, and you need a guide. But this is what's been really cool about my clients in the online offering, is because originally I was like, is this going to work? Because I drank the Kool-Aid too, of like, oh, I have to be standing there with them. This, like what I teach on Unicorn Wellness, really teaches a self-practice and allows people to get really connected to themselves, which is the most empowering thing and the most healing component.
Yeah, you're so right. And learning that consistency is part of the long-term solution. So yeah. Tell us a little bit about your book.
The Unicorn Wellness Handbook, the little book that could.
Cute, I love it.
I intentionally wrote something that was like small, because I wanted it to be a literal handbook that people lived with. It's written out like within 4 weeks. So if you wanted to implement a unicorn wellness lifestyle, you can do that in a month, right? Like in a 4-week process. And it really just breaks down like, why 30 minutes? Why Pilates versus yoga? It's not really a versus, because I teach both, but it really breaks down what each of them does, because they're perfect sister formats for each other, and they fill in where the other one drops off. And then goes through, my personal story of healing, because it really was about 12 years before I got diagnosed with celiac, after I'd had a thyroidectomy and after I'd struggled and had 2 children that just like, it just didn't get better, And so I got pissed off at that certain point and was like, I'm just going to figure this out. And I researched for like 12 years. And then I wrote my 41-day food reset. And that's really the highlight of the handbook, because it's kind of like just enough information to give you the lay of the land without it being too overwhelming to not want to try doing it, which is really just about cracking your own food code. That I don't believe that, everybody should be vegan, everybody should be paleo. Again, our bodies are all different variations. And the most powerful thing we can do is listen to it and be in co-creatorship with it and go, what do you need right now? Because as women, I think those who have had children, our bodies change, and what works before doesn't work after. And for me, that was a real instigator to go, oh, how can this be a lifelong process of flowing and listening? And the book also goes into like a really minimal, light beginner oracle or tarot card practice as a meditation, as a tool of self-exploration. And then has a little bit on essential oils and crystals too, because they're common things that I get asked about, like, what should I start with? What's the best? And the best is like one of those questions as a teacher, I go, there is no best. You know, what's best for you? What's the goal? And then we template past that.
Yeah. It sounds like the perfect way to dive in and kind of get an idea of what it would take to kind of go down this journey, especially if you're new to it.
Yes. And interestingly enough, that was really why I wrote it. I felt like, again, online, it does kind of look like a lot. And then you're like, I don't know if I want to subscribe and like live with her. So the book was like a one-off, you know, with some distance, but with the lay of the land.
So neat. This 41-day food reset, how involved, or like how can anybody just decide to do it tomorrow, or what does it take as far as prep if someone's curious?
Well, maybe not a tomorrow, but maybe like in a 2 or 3 days. Yeah. It will look very much like a paleo elimination practice at the beginning, because it's kind of a blend of paleo, of Ayurvedic, and traditional Chinese medicine.
Cool.
Yeah. So because I've literally done one of everything and not one thing worked. And so I took like a do no harm approach, like what's a great template for everyone in order to figure out what works for them. So it's a full day of grocery shopping. I mean, not an entire day, but it's a big grocery haul the first go round. And there's a grocery list in the book.
Yeah.
And then it will take approximately 4 hours the first time you prep it, because it's batch cooking, because all of your meals will be complete for the week.
Okay, and so great.
Right?
Yeah.
Like our family lives on batch cooking, and I couldn't have navigated a thyroidectomy and celiac without it in a busy life.
Yeah. It takes commitment, and anybody who has been struggling with the way they're feeling internally, they can't figure out why, they're tired of switching medicines, this, that, and the other thing. 4 hours of shopping, or, you know, and then 4 hours of prep to invest in 41 days to see if this will help to give you some relief. That's irreplaceable.
It really is. It does sound, I know from being on this side of it for so many years now, people get a little overwhelmed with that. And as a culture, we actually don't cook as much anymore. So people think, I don't know how to cook, so I can't. I'm not comfortable in the kitchen. When I wrote the reset, I did not cook, mostly because I lived in fear of food, because it was such a trigger.
Yeah.
You know, and I just did it. And what I love is, as like the spiritual side of things, is connecting with your food and touching it tangibly is a grounding thing. Cooking with love is a thing. When you put that effort and energy into it, you know, it changes your perspective on it. So it is an endeavor and a commitment, but it's, I mean, if somebody's done the whole 30, it's like, you know, come on.
Yeah. Give it a go.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think that I love your perspective on the answer to one of our questions. So we submit, just so our viewers know, we have a few questions that kind of help guide us, but we always let the conversation flow naturally. But I loved your response to how do you push through fear? And I'm going to answer it for you. Go right ahead. Share with us.
Well, this has been a personal thing too, of like the things that I'm scared of doing, the things that I'm resistant to doing. And you go, oh, the universe has just been really loud with me over years. And at this point I go, the things that I'm really fearful about doing, you got to like lean in, jump in, figure out how to get comfortable, figure out how you're going to navigate through it. Because every single time has been really catharsis and reward. But they are always flags of where you're going next, literally.
How do you, so you talk about helping women to kind of learn that intuitive voice and to lean in and listen to it. How do you differentiate that sometimes between that other voice that can just be annoying and second guessing and you're like, shut up, is it this one or is it this one? So
well, so the spiritual component of things, kind of the woo-woo side, really helped me discern this, because this is something we all live with day to day. So no matter how ascended or how grounded or centered we are, we're still human. I have wanted to drop the F-bomb about 10 times on here, and I haven't yet. So I'm trying to be good about it, you know?
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm like, cool. That the fear, like the grumbly, like tummy stuff, really. Like, it lives in a certain place. Those are things that are important to you, that you worry that if they like don't turn out well, it's going to be embarrassing and that your poor little heart's going to break over it. You know, I find that that voice is like, it's very, physically, it comes from up here. You know, it's like your brain turning on. And if you stop and go, where is this coming from? Is this my gut, or is this my human ego telling me? It's hands down your ego. You know, and those tiny quiet things that mean so much to us. And I learn more and more, and I feel like in the last like 3-month cycle, it's been like, oh, illuminated even bigger of like how to listen and how to step into those things. It's the quiet, repetitive things that just will not go away. That's the true intuition. That's your heart-centered self. That's your soul. That's your higher, like whatever you want to call it. You know, I mean, I feel that every translation is viable, whether it's Christ consciousness, where it's, you know, Mary Magdalene, whether it's Taoism, whether it's Buddha, you know, they all have a resonance of truth in them. But it's those quiet things, the nagging ones, that just won't go away. Yeah.
That's great. That's a good way to explain it, and for someone to walk away with and kind of let that resonate and sink in. Often when we're trying to decipher which voice is which.
Right. And it does take time too, but I would just say, if you're asking the question of which voice it is, the one that says don't do it is always going to be the ego-based, always.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting. That is very, very, And then just kind of talking about all the change and doing new things and incorporate new habits. I mean, of course, it's a perfect time of year with, you know, 2020 right around the corner and things like that. But sometimes I feel like there's a lot of stress that can come with that. Oh, you know, it's the end of the year. It's a new year. What are your new goals? What kind of huge things are you going to do? You know, what's your perspective? What's your insight on that? How do you help guide someone not to freak out?
Well, this is funny too, because this was not in the questions, right? Yeah. But it's like the natural progression of time of year. So here's the secret, okay? When it comes to astrology and when it comes to, you know, spirituality and holistic timetables, this is not the time of year to start anything new. I'm shooting myself in the foot here, right? Yeah. Like, I'm like, you can start something new at any time as a person, but as a calendar, this is not the time to do it. This is the biggest load of BS that like our Western Gregorian calendar ever sold us. Okay. So in astrology, you know, in the astrological calendar, winter, so December, January, February, this is hunker down time. This is quiet time. This is introspection. This is, you know, reevaluation. This is synthesis and hibernation. Yes. It is not the time to start a new program with your intent. Like, no. Spring is the time, because you've had this time to be thoughtful, to go, what do I need now? What resonates with me? What calls to me? What do I think is interesting and fun? What would I like this new year to be filled with? And so when it comes to March, April, May, this is the time that the energies of the universe, literally of the cosmos, of our cycle of the seasons, like let's just talk about seasonally, supports fresh starts, new endeavors, new goals, and like that energy's there to go get them. We are bound to fail typically if we're banking everything on January 1st, because our circadian rhythms are not dialed into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's so great to hear. And it makes complete sense. And I read in your article, your magazine article, about hold on, just let it kind of percolate almost. Don't, you know, it's still sticky on the inside. It's still baking. So you just got to hold a little bit longer.
Well, and we start to feel like Capricorn season, you know, in December is like, Capricorn's the CEO of the chart. It's like the go-getter. Like, I'm going to set goals. I'm going to go. So we do feel like setting goals in December and January. Absolutely. And you should. In a journal, on a calendar, long-term planning. Mm-hmm. And this is where I feel that culturally we're just like, oh, I'm like teaching one unicorn at a time, how to really anchor back into our circadian rhythms, a natural cycle of how things work. Watch Mama Nature, she will tell you. Yeah. And just hold on, just hang in there a little bit. Yes, you get to do prep work. Yes, you can invest in it. Yes, you can take classes. Yes, you can like write it and maybe like little launches out there, but that ship is not going to sail until spring.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And again, it's kind of like those long-term goals, which long-term, that's really only 90 days, 3 months from now. But in our world, it feels like so long sometimes just because of our society. And, you know, people are used to New Year's resolutions and January 1st goals. And by the time January 10th hits, you feel like complete crap because all of the things that you had in your journal or doing whatever, you know, it's like, yeah, that wasn't realistic.
Like not at all. And this is really where, as you know, we talked about empowering women and helping, you know, women by nature are solar forces of energy. This is patience. This is intuition. But we've grown up in a toxic patriarchal society and culture. Men are in the same wagon too. This is not about, but I speak to empowering women because naturally we get the cycles of life because we have a cycle or we're dealing with it or not having one, that we are in closer communication to it. And so I just feel like trying to literally every member I've ever gotten, I'm like, oh, thank God. It's like trying to turn the tides like one by one of going, stop shame and blame of not having followed through because it's not supported at this time.
No, and everybody is in their own time too. And I think that's something that we forget about is like, oh, everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that. But really, it just comes down to what's right for you, just like with your body. Mm-hmm.
I mean, always. And that's the most empowering thing to go, I want this. I'm planning for this, you know, and for some of us with a lot of fire in our chart, we're going on to health and I'm just going to do it right now, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You know, then you're listening to your system. Go, you know.
Yeah.
But honoring the slowness, the long term, the strategy, which is why I like to teach on the mat, because there's no more literal representation of doing tiny and mighty micro movements, 30 minutes at a time, and then really sticking with it, going from where you began to 3 months, 6 months, 9 and 12 months, and going, holy cow, all of those things happened and these things changed and they feel better and they look better, you know, like in these really subtle, sneaky ways. Any goal is the same way.
That's so cool. I love it. It's like the evolution of your hard work.
Yeah.
Like meaning yours, but then, you know, for us personally, you know, it's
Yeah.
How do you recharge? So, you know, you give so much to the Unicorn Wellness Tribe and the unicorns in your own business and your family. How do you recharge?
My go-tos are meditation. I mean, that's number one. It's like the mini nap. Like it's like the power nap. I'm big on Epsom salt baths. So, or like pedicures. I'm big on pedicures.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love to read like tangible books.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are really the mainstays. I do have theta healing done, and it's usually in the energy work these days, but it's always a reclusive. The introvert in me needs that like total recluse downtime. Mm-hmm. And then can go to give again. I also, I mean, I sing Broadway show tunes.
That's awesome.
That's
like so cool.
Around my house. That's my happy.
Yeah, that's what it should be. I love it. That energy, just having that energy and just being in that mindset. And that's something for you. That's everybody needs something for that. That's so cool. I love that. Tell us a little bit about the retreat coming up.
So the retreat, okay, so 6.5 years that I've been online, my clients have been like, when are you going to do a retreat? And I'm like, in the middle of all of this, I don't know. So another very fierce female friend of mine, she and I went to college together. We went to an all women's college. You know, the universe regifts us people. So we're going to St. Thomas in May.
Gorgeous.
Right? Yeah. I mean, so gorgeous. So it's a house that's been rented like on the cliffs near the water with this beautiful outdoor space. And I'm facilitating meditation and movement every morning. And so we will take that long view so we can workshop things in it. But the 4 to 5 days culminate in a full moon ritual under the full moon by the ocean.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Right? So Brianna Firestone, she's the School of Betty. She's a coach and really teaches financial foundations. And she and I really balance each other, that my clients become hers and hers become mine as we stoop around. So she's teaching the functional coaching bits throughout the day, and I'll handle the movement, the meditation, and the ritual throughout the week. So
that's really neat. I'm assuming it's limited spots available.
It's very limited spots, and it's half full. So if anyone is interested in coming on retreat with us, I mean, this is going to be some major magic going down. I think there, as of yesterday, are like 6 spots left. It's limited to 14 total. And so I guess it's a little more than half full. But if you'll go to theschoolofbetty.com and under the tropical retreat, all the information's there. She's really planned it and run that one home. We have a chef that's coming with us that has celiac, so very like gluten-free, very intelligent. So for those with autoimmune issues, like everything is taken care of. We really created something that we wanted, right, and needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all with the full moon outside. St. Thomas in May is like paradise in itself. That's so awesome. Very cool. So we talk about the red bra moments, and it's not just a moment, it's everyday things. It can be literally, for some people, you know, it can be just getting out of bed and just going on with your day if you're going through a really tough challenge for some reason. But they can be big moments as well, and kind of that red bra underneath it that isn't always showing, but you know personally that it's there, and it helps to fuel you, it helps to support you, it gives you the confidence to do things when that fear is talking in your head, and you know that is your trigger point. What is a red bra moment for you, Tandy?
We've talked so much about my business and our business as a family that I would assume that people would think it was launching it or hitting certain pieces with memberships, but my red bra moments were really giving birth to my children. When you asked that question, and I thought, no, those were the moments, you know, because it's hard and it's really scary and it's traumatic. And you know, hearing other women's stories, and then as you go through things, and I had a miscarriage before my second son, and I'm adopted. It had so many layers of symbolism and importance to me that giving birth to my sons was like, like that was, if I can do this, I could do anything.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and that's the awesome thing is like none of it has to connect, you know, to everything we just talked about. It's what your moment is personally, and that's incredible. I mean, you are birthing a human, so that is just amazing in itself.
Well, and as a spiritual teacher, motherhood really, it's a trip. I mean, you are couriering through another soul. That's a whole nother bag.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that you're really being gifted and trusted with a whole nother soul. And there is this epicness of nature versus nurture, and what is our importance to each other, and what are our lessons to each other, and generations of how we were parented versus how we'd like to be parents to others.
Oh yeah.
And then your own shit that comes along with it that gets triggered where you're like, oh, okay. You know, so for me, right, just me, I was never intent on being a mother. It wasn't like my relationships with my biological and my adoptive, very not constructive or healthy. And so these were literally life-changing, and I very much value and in stewardship of it, and also know I have effed up and will continue to, and I'm just human and doing my very best.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think it's just really important to hear people's different moments and kind of what empowers them and why, and it's incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we wrap up every show with a quote for our guests, and the one that we chose for you is, and I have to move my computer screen a little bit. Okay. So normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it. Vincent van Gogh. And I thought that was so beautifully fitting for you and your story and just everything we've talked about, because you talked about connecting the dots a little bit and kind of how the path led you here. And here it is, you put all of these incredible things that are so unique and different together to create this beautiful gift. And just thank you for sharing your gift and doing it and acting upon it.
Okay, that's so beautiful, because you would have never known this. One, I've never heard that quote, and I'm honored. It's beautiful. My husband and I have this story of when we were first dating, and he was a philosophy major at Berkeley, so he can get a little like smarty pants sometimes.
Yeah.
Where one of the first conversations we had, where I was like, maybe this person is my partner, that he was like, no, we have agreements in this lifetime. And we lived in LA at the time, and it's like the 405, right? Like, as a culture, we agree for that to be concrete and for cars to be on it. And he was like, but we could agree for it to be velvet and we all walked in flip-flops on it. Right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So for you to pull that quote, which I've never heard.
Yeah.
Like, I have that moment of, like, our life is our own agreement. It really can be anything we want it to be. And I know that there are women out there listening that go, that's fine for you, but that's not okay for me. And we have focused on the journey and the good outcome, but there's all kinds of dark stuff behind it and along the way. So thank you for picking that. That was more meaningful than you know.
You're so welcome. And I'm so glad it touched you in that way. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story and a little bit of, you know, how you got here. I think it's so important and it's powerful. So for all of our viewers, thank you guys all for tuning in. Please share this story with somebody who could use to hear it, or is looking for a solution or just a connection. The powerful connection is so there. And as Tandy said, this is an all play. What she offers is on all different levels, and not just, you know, if you're struggling with physical ailments, but internally and spiritually. So just go check her out. We're going to link up all the ways to connect with her. She has been so gracious in gifting us a code. So if you do watch this, she has a discount code for her wellness membership, her Unicorn Wellness membership. So reach out, comment on this video, or reach out to us at the Red Bra Project through DM on Instagram or our redbraproject.com page. So we'll get you guys all hooked up. And thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much, Tandy.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Have a good night.